A police officer pulls over a speeding car. The officer says, "I clocked you at 80 miles per hour, sir." The driver replies, "Gee, officer, I had it on cruise control at 60, perhaps your radar gun needs calibrating." Not looking up from her knitting, the driver's wife says, "Now don't be silly, dear. You know that this car doesn't have cruise control." As the officer writes out the ticket, the driver looks over at his wife and growls, "Can't you please keep your mouth shut for once?" The wife smiles demurely and says, "Well, dear, you should be thankful your radar detector went off when it did, or your speed would have been higher." As the officer makes out the second ticket for the illegal radar detector, the man glowers at his wife and says through clenched teeth, "Woman, can't you keep your mouth shut?" The officer frowns and says, "And I notice that you're not wearing your seatbelt, sir. That's an automatic $75 fine." The driver says, "Yeah, well, you see, officer, I had it on, but I took it off when you pulled me over so that I could get my license out of my back pocket." The wife says, "Now, dear, you know very well that you didn't have your seatbelt on. You never wear your seatbelt when you're driving." And as the police officer is writing out the third ticket, the driver turns to his wife and barks, "Will you please be quiet?" The officer looks over at the woman and asks, "Does your husband always talk to you this way, ma'am?" She replies, "Only when he's been drinking." An 80-year-old man married a 20-year-old girl. After a year, she gave birth in a hospital. The nurse congratulated the fellow. "This is amazing. How do you do it at your age?" He answered, "You've got to keep that old motor running." The following year, she gave birth again. The same nurse said, "You really are amazing. What's the secret?" He again said, "You've got to keep the old motor running." The same thing happened the next year. The nurse said, "You must be quite a man." He responded, "You've got to keep that old motor running." The nurse then said, "Well, you had better change the oil, this one's black."